All right, here's a go 600-word expanded segmento for a key point: control your emotions, don't react immediately, written in the web Jessica Opare style. Calm, authoritative, psychological, and motivational. When someone you love or deeply care about hurts you, the natural human tendency is to react immediately. We lash out, we argue, we demand answers. We feel compelled to show our pain because the wound feels raw and unbearable. But here's the truth. When you give in to that immediate emotional reaction, you actually hand over your power. You make the person who hurt you the center of your emotional universe. And in that moment, whether you realize it or not, you tell her, "You control me." Think about it. Anger, shouting, emotional outbursts. These are signals that you have been thrown off balance. They reveal that your state of mind is dependent on her actions. And if she sees that she knows exactly how much control she has over you, the more power you give away in those heated moments, the less respect she feels for you. Respect and attraction are always tied to strength, not weakness. Now, I'm not saying you should suppress your feelings. Pain is real and you have every right to feel it. But what I'm suggesting is that you learn the discipline of pause, the discipline of silence. Instead of sending a long emotional text or getting into an argument, take a step back. Breathe, reflect, process. Because the man who pauses before he reacts is the man who remains in control. Philosophers had for centuries that true freedom lies not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. And that's exactly what emotional discipline is. It's self-mastery. Imagine being one who shouts, slams doors, sends desperate messages when a woman offends him, and another who simply withdraws quietly, processes his emotions in solitude, and continues his life with dignity. Which of those men do you think she will miss? Which of those men do you think she will respect? The answer is obvious. And here's the psychology behind it. When you react impulsively, you give her certainty. She knows you're still emotionally bound to her. She knows you're hurt and invested. But when you remain calm, collected, and unshaken, you create uncertainty. Uncertainty is powerful because it makes her question, why didn't he react? Why is he so calm? Does he not care? Did I lose my grip on him? That questioning is the beginning of missing you. Silence is not weakness. In fact, silence is often the loudest response. It's a signal of maturity, restraint, and self-respect. It says, I do not dance to the tune of your emotions. I move at my own pace. And that message is far more impactful than any argument you could ever make. This is not about playing games or manipulating. It's about living from a position of strength. Women, just like men, are wired to respect emotional stability. When you demonstrate that her actions don't dictate your peace of mind, she begins to see you differently. She realizes that she cannot simply toy with your emotions and still hold your attention. That realization, my friends, is what makes her miss you. So the next time a woman hurts you, remember this: reacting with anger may satisfy your ego for a moment, but it weakens your position in the long run. Choosing silence, choosing composure, choosing self-control, that makes you unforgettable because strength is magnetic, self-mastery is rare, and rarity always leaves an imprint. Control your emotions, not for her, but for yourself. Because when you do, you won't just make her miss you. You'll elevate yourself into the kind of man no one can afford to lose. Would you like me to now view expand key point 2E in the same 600-word style so we can start building the full 20-minute speech step by step? Perfect. Let's move into a key point 2G. Pull back and focus on yourself in the same style and depth as key point 1. Here's the 600-word segment written to flow seamlessly with your overall speech. One of the greatest mistakes men make when a woman hurts them is that they allow her to remain the center of their focus. They think about her constantly, replaying every conversation, analyzing every word, checking her social media, waiting for her message. They revolve their energy around her presence or her absence. And yet, ironically, the very thing that makes someone miss you is the absence of your attention. When a woman knows that your entire world still revolves around her, she doesn't feel the need to chase. Why? Because you're still giving her the validation that she matters most in your life. But when you pull back, when you stop feeding your energy, your thoughts, and your constant attention, that's when she begins to feel the void. That's when she begins to realize just how much space you used to occupy in her world. This is why the most powerful move after being hurt is to redirect your focus. Not on her, but on yourself. Shift that same energy you once poured into her and invest it in your own growth. Go back to the gym, not because you want to impress her, but because your body deserves strength. Read the books, take the courses, start the business. Not to make her jealous, but to elevate your life. The moment you stop waiting for her to validate you and starting yourself, you naturally create distance. And that distance forces her to reflect on what she's losing. Psychology has a simple truthing: people value what they cannot easily access. When you are constantly available, constantly reaching out, constantly showing up, you diminish your value. But when you step back and focus inward, you become scarce. And scarcity creates desire. She begins to remember the attention, the energy, the presence you once gave, and she begins to feel the weight of its absence. That's how longing is born. There's also a deeper philosophical element here. Ancient thinkers taught that a man's first duty is to himself, to cultivate his mind, his body, and his spirit. When you neglect yourself in the name of holding on to someone else, you betray that duty. But when you choose self-focus, you live with integrity. And integrity, my friends, has an undeniable power. People are drawn to those who live with self-respect and discipline. That energy cannot be faked. It radiates from within. And understand this thesis, pulling back doesn't mean you're playing games. It doesn't mean you're trying to manipulate her emotions. It means you're recentering your life where it belongs, around your purpose, not around another person. Women admire men who live with direction. They miss men who are constantly moving forward, because forward motion is attractive. Stagnation is not. So if she hurts you, don't beg, don't chase, don't prove your worth. Instead, let your actions say, I will rise without you. Go silent, but grow louder through your progress. Every step you take toward becoming a better version of yourself is a reminder to her of the man she underestimated. That's when her memory becomes your greatest ally. She will think of you not as the man who broke down, but as the man who built up. So take back your power, pull back, focus on yourself. Women, and watch how the world, including her, begins to see you differently, because the man who invests in himself will never have to chase. He becomes the one others cannot afford to lose. Would you like me to continue with Key Point 3 Eve next? So we gradually complete the full 20-minute short speecho in one unified voice. Here's the use 600-word expansion of Key Point 3, limit your availability, crafted to flow seamlessly after the first 2 points in the same intellectual yet motivational tuning. One of the most underestimated forces in human relationships is availability. We rarely stop to think about it, but the things we have easy access to are the very things we tend to undervalue. It's why we don't notice the air we breathe until it's polluted. Force women. It's why we don't think about electricity until the lights go out. And in relationships, it's why a woman may fail to appreciate a man who is constantly at her beck and call until he is no longer there. When a woman hurts you, one of the most powerful steps you can take is to limit your availability. Not in a childish way, not in, I'll ignore you just to get back at you kind of way. No, I mean with quiet dignity and intentional distance, because availability is not just about physical presence. It's about emotional access. It's about how quickly you respond, how eager you appear, and how often you make yourself present in her world. If you're always the first to text, always ready to answer the phone, always available to meet her needs, even after she's disrespected or hurt you, then you strip yourself of value. Psychologists call this the principle of scarcity. What is scarce feels valuable. What is abundant feels disposable. And the truth is, if she knows she can reach you anytime, anyhow, she has no reason to feel your absence. But when you create space, when you pull back your attention, when you become less accessible, that very distance makes her feel the contrast. Suddenly, what was once constant is now uncertain. That uncertainty is what creates longing. It's also important to understand this from a position of strength. Limiting your availability doesn't mean disappearing completely or cutting her off with bitterness. It means shifting your focus so that you no longer orbit around her. You respond when it aligns with your energy, your priorities, your schedule, not hers. You set the rhythm and she adjusts to you. And when she realizes that your life is not built around waiting for her call, she begins to notice your absence more than your presence. Philosophically, this is about reclaiming balance. Relationships should never be about one person overextending while the other takes for granted. Balance is achieved when both parties respect each other's time, energy, and presence. By limiting your availability, you send a clear message. My time is valuable. My presence is not something to be misused. I will not reward disrespect with constant access. That message, delivered not in words but in actions, is far louder than any argument you could ever make. And here's the deeper psychological truth: distance creates curiosity. When you are always available, there's nothing to wonder about, nothing to question, nothing to imagine. But when you pull back, you open the door to curiosity. She begins to wonder where you are, what you're doing, who you're with. Curiosity is the seed of desire. Desire is the seed of missing. So instead of proving your worth by being excessively present, prove it by being strategically absent. Instead of chasing, let her come to you. Instead of making yourself easy to reach, allow your absence to become noticeable. And when she feels that gap, when she realizes the silence is not filled by anyone else, she will begin to crave what she once overlooked. In the end, availability is a form of currency. Spend it wisely or it loses its value. Give it freely without boundaries and it will be taken for granted. But guard it, ration it, make it something rare and it becomes priceless. So remember this, since if she hurts you, don't fight for her attention. Let your absence do the talking. Because sometimes the most powerful way to be remembered is to no longer be easily reached. Would you like me to move on to key point 4B in the same 600-word expansion? So we continue building toward a polished, flowing 20-minute speech. Here's the GU 600-word expansion of key point 4, show confidence and independency, crafted in the same flowing, intellectual yet accessible tone. Yet a confidence is one of the most magnetic forces in human interaction. And yet, when a woman hurts a man, the very first thing many men lose is their confidence. They doubt themselves. They question their worth. They begin to think, maybe I wasn't good enough, maybe I should have done more. That spiral of self-doubt is the fastest way to strip yourself of power, because the moment you lose confidence in yourself, you hand over control of your identity to someone else. But let me tell you something fundamental. No woman is drawn to a man who loses himself in the face of pain. What captures attention, what demands respect, is the man who, even when hurt, stands tall, moves forward, and demonstrates independence. Independence is not arrogance. It is not pretending you don't care. Independence is living in such a way that your sense of identity is not built on someone else's approval. The truth is, attraction is psychological. We are naturally drawn to those who radiate self-assurance. When you show confidence, you communicate, I am whole, with or without you. And that wholeness is irresistible because it creates stability. Nobody wants to attach themselves to someone who crumbles easily. Women respect and miss the man who doesn't need them to survive, but chooses to share his life with them. Think about the men who are remembered long after a breakup. They are not the ones who begged, pleaded, or clung desperately. They are the ones who moved forward, gracefully pursued their dreams, who carried themselves with dignity. When she sees that your happiness is not dependent on her, when she notices that you are still thriving, still laughing, still pursuing your goals, it forces her to reconsider her assumptions about you. It makes her realize that she did not break you. She only revealed your strength. Philosophically, confidence is self-knowledge. It is knowing your value, regardless of external validation. The Stoics spoke of this often: a man who knows himself cannot be shaken by another's opinion of him. And that's the standard you must rise to. Because when a woman sees that your confidence does not collapse under the weight of her rejection or her hurtful actions, she begins to see you differently. She sees you as a man who commands respect, not a man who begs for it. And independence flows naturally from that confidence. Independence is not isolation, it's freedom. It's the ability to stand alone and still feel complete. When you demonstrate independence by pursuing your passions, building your life, maintaining your friendships, and chasing your ambitions, you silently communicate, my world does not end with you. That message, delivered through your lifestyle, is far louder than any speech you could give her. Psychology tells us that people are attracted to strength and stability because it provides a sense of security. When you crumble, you become unstable and instability repels. But when you stand firm, when you show that no matter what happens, you remain grounded, you become a pillar. And people miss the presence of a pillar because it is rare. So if a woman hurts you, resist the temptation to shrink, to collapse, or to chase validation. Instead, rise into your confidence. Demonstrate through your actions that you are whole, that your value is not diminished, and that your independence is intact. That is when she begins to miss you, not just because of who you were to her, but because of the strength you reveal in her absence. And the truth is simple. The world respects a man who respects himself. Show confidence. Live independently. Because when you do, you won't just make her miss you. You'll make yourself impossible to forget. Would you like me to continue with key point 5U in the same expanded style so the full 20-minute speech is completed as one unified flow? Here's the 600-word expansion of key point 5. You surround yourself with positivity, written in the same voice and flow as the earlier segments. When you've been hurt, the easiest thing to do is to sink into negativity. You replay the pain in your mind. You talk about it with everyone who will listen. And before you know it, you've built an environment that feeds your wounds instead of healing. And here's the reality. Your environment has power over your emotions. If you surround yourself with darkness, you will stay in darkness. If you surround yourself with light, you begin to heal and grow. This is why one of the smartest moves you can make after being hurt is to deliberately surround yourself with positivity. Not forced happiness, not pretending nothing happened, but consciously choosing spaces, people, and activities that uplift your spirit. Because what she will notice more than anything else is not that you've been hurt, but how you carry yourself in the aftermath of that hurt. Think about it. Pain can either become your prison or your fuel. If you sit in bitterness, constantly checking on her, comparing yourself, and feeding your mind with negative thoughts, you become stuck. But if you use that pain as fuel to connect with friends, to strengthen family ties, to explore new passions, you build an energy around you that is magnetic. People will notice that you shine even in the midst of difficulty. And when she sees that, when she notices that you did not drown in pain but elevated through it, it triggers a deep sense of reflection. Because positivity is rare, and rarity creates attraction. From a psychological perspective, emotions are contagious. The energy you carry doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you. If you carry sadness and bitterness, people naturally distance themselves. But if you cultivate joy, optimism, and growth, people are drawn to you. This includes her. She may not admit it, but if she sees you laughing with friends, traveling, building new experiences, and creating joy without her, she will feel the difference. She will remember that your presence once brought her that same energy, and it's the memory of that positive energy that will make her miss you. Philosophically, this is about alignment. Life will always give us reasons to be bitter, but wisdom lies in choosing not to remain in bitterness. To surround yourself with positivity is to align yourself with growth instead of stagnation, with hope instead of despair. And alignment always shows in how you carry yourself, in your body language, your conversations, your lifestyle. A man who aligns himself with positivity becomes unshakable because his peace is not dependent on external circumstances. This is also about standards. By surrounding yourself with positivity, you silently communicating, I do not dwell in toxicity. I rise above it. That statement, even if unspoken, is powerful because it shows that you respect yourself enough not to stay where negativity resides. And respect for yourself always commands respect from others. So don't waste time proving to her that you're fine. Don't post pictures just to make her jealous or pretend that you've moved on when you haven't. Instead, genuinely fill your life with good things. Healthy relationships, meaningful goals, joyful experiences. Let positivity become your natural state, not a performance. And the beauty of it is, when it's authentic, it radiates. And that radiation is impossible to ignore. At the end of the day, pain will test you. It will ask, will you shrink or will you grow? Surrounding yourself with positivity is your answer to that question. And when she sees you surrounded by light while she expected you to crumble in darkness, that contrast will not only make her miss you, it will make her realize she underestimated your strength. So make the choice. Choose positivity. Because a man who surrounds himself with light will never go unnoticed. Hey, would you like me to now expand key point 6 into the final 600-word segment? So you'll have the complete 20-minute motivational speech up ready in one consistent flow. Here's the 600-word expansion of key point 6. Let her feel the consequences of. Written to complete the flow of your 20-minute motivational speech in the same Jessica Opare style. One of the most overlooked truths in relationships is that actions teach better than words. When someone hurts you, you don't need to lecture them endlessly about how wrong they were. You don't need to explain over and over how much they damaged you. Because explanations rarely change behavior, but consequences do. People learn not from what you tell them, but from what they feel when they can no longer access what they once took for granted. When a woman hurts you and you continue to reward her behavior with attention, presence, or affection, you rob her of the chance to truly reflect. You cushion her from the reality of her actions. But when you quietly step back, when you no longer respond the same way, when you no longer give her the constant validation she once received, she begins to feel the weight of what she lost. That weight is the consequence, and it is far more powerful than any argument could ever be. Think of it this way: if touching a flame never burned, no one would respect fire. The pain is what teaches you not to repeat the mistake. The same principle applies here. If she disrespects you, hurts you, or underestimates you, and yet still enjoys full access to your love, your time, and your energy, then there is no fire, no consequence, no reason for her to change. But when her actions result in distance, silence, and the loss of your presence, she learns through experience that behavior has costs, and that lesson is unforgettable. This is not about revenge. It's not about trying to teach her a lesson in some petty way. It's about self-respect, because by allowing her to feel the consequence of her behavior, you honor yourself. You communicate without shouting, without bitterness, that you are not a man who tolerates disrespect. And that boundary, that quiet strength, forces her to see you differently. She may not admit it at first, but in the quiet moments when she feels your absence, she will think about it. She will compare the man who once gave so much with the silence that now surrounds her. That comparison is what sparks longing. Psychologically, humans value contrast. We only appreciate warmth when we felt cold. We only appreciate water when we're thirsty, and we only appreciate a person when we experience their absence. By pulling back and letting her feel life without your presence, you give her contrast, and contrast awakens value. She begins to realize that what she dismissed was, in fact, rare. Philosophically, this is about justice. Every action carries a consequence, whether immediate or delayed. To remove consequences is to live in imbalance. An imbalance leads to disorder. When you allow her to experience the natural consequence of hurting you, your withdrawal, your silence, your shift in focus, you restore balance. And in that balance, she gains clarity. The beauty of this approach is that it requires no performance. You don't need to announce it, post about it, or dramatize it. You simply live it. You move with dignity. You continue building your life. And in that quiet strength, she feels the truth more deeply than she would ever hear it in words. So remember this, don't argue for your worth. Don't plead to be respected. Let your actions create the consequence. Because the absence of your energy is more powerful than the presence of your complaints. And when she feels that absence, when she feels the void of your presence, she will not just miss you. She will rethink everything. In the end, consequences are not cruelty. They are clarity. And clarity is what makes people change. So let her feel it, not to hurt her, but to honor yourself. Because when you do, you rise into the kind of man whose presence is unforgettable and whose absence is impossible to ignore. And would you like me to now have stitched all 6 expanded key points into one seamless 20-minute motivational speech up so it flows as a single unified delivery?